Hi there, Chris from TotallyEV, and here doing a dedicated audio review of the Audi Q8 e-tron. If you want a detailed review of the vehicle itself, do check it up on your pop banner, down description below, or indeed in the pinned comments. Now to kick off, I would like to point out that there are two different configurations. A 10-speaker 180 watt system, which is on review, or a 17-speaker 705 watt Bang & Olufsen system, which is comprised as standard in the Black Edition or the Vossprong, or can be additionally added for a £3,000 option in the other trim levels. Now here, the 17 speaker system has actually previously been reviewed by myself, and you can check it up on your pop banner or down description below via the e-tron S, indeed its predecessor. However, here we're looking at the 10 speaker Audi system, which frankly is pretty disappointing. Now first off, let me talk about the audio configuration. You've got two audio drivers found within each of the rear doors. Then you have got a singular driver found within each of the front doors, and then you've also got tweeters found towards each of the extremities of the dashboard, and then a singular mid-range driver found towards the center. Finally, to round it off, you've got a subwoofer positioned in the boot, which is not exactly particularly large, therefore tallying up to 10 speakers and indeed 180 watts. Have reached out to the manufacturer for some driver sizes, but unfortunately haven't heard back. Of course, if I do get this information, I will pop it down in the description below, or indeed in the written review. Now, for you to customize the audio system, you'll want to navigate on the 10.1-inch display. And here, via the infotainment system, you'll find a treble and bass adjustments only. Indeed, this was a similar complaint I had of the Bang & Olufsen system. And indeed, over here, the default Audi system only gives you these two bands. It's a shame that you do not have the subwoofer or, for example, mid and high adjustments. Nonetheless, I've only added one notch to treble and taken one notch off bass. I've left the speed-dependent volume at default and left the focus at all. Of course, it's all very subjective, so make sure you play around with it to your heart's content, but I will suggest maybe not doing so much on the treble, and I'll be touching upon why further down in this video. Now, for you to connect up to the infotainment system, you have got the SBC and AAC codecs. But better still, if you do connect over Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, these will be supported over both a wired and wireless transmission, therefore giving you far better audio fidelity. Now moving swiftly on, we get onto cabin noise, and here the objective numbers will be on your screen. Indeed, both at lower and higher speeds, the vehicle does a tremendous job of keeping you isolated from the world around you. Indeed, this vehicle does provide class-leading cabin insulation and is among one of the best out there in the market. Now, the same sort of comments were said about the regular e-tron and the e-tron S, which ironically the latter actually did have a similar sort of measurements that I recorded within the cabin, and that's because I go along the same sort of test route. So it's absolutely great to see that the Q8 e-tron still follows on with that trend and provides absolutely class-leading cabin insulation. Now, it's worth pointing out that this vehicle didn't even come fitted with the £550 acoustic side window glazing. So you might actually want to save yourself that money. And in fact, for those people who are aware, it was actually removed as an option altogether in the e-tron S. So therefore, it might be a bit odd to see it actually reappear, because here Audi might be wanting to have people actually go for this option when they don't really need to, or of course, give you even better cabin insulation if you so wish it. Now, past this, I would like to give you a little audio demo. Now, I appreciate it's not going to be ideal over YouTube nor using my microphone, but we'll give you a little bit of a taster. I'll be placing the camera and microphone in 4 separate locations and playing back Priya J's track, which is titled Like Me.
Came
Now, appreciating an audio demo over YouTube is never ideal, so let me get onto my subjective opinion. Now, first off, in terms of the sub-bass rumble, it's certainly there and can be felt, and that's thanks to the inclusion of a dedicated subwoofer in the boot. However, it cannot compete with the Bang & Olufsen system, which is comprised within the Q8 e-tron, at least as part of the £3,000 tech pack option, or indeed in comparison to some of its competitors, such as the BMW iX3 Harman Kardon audio system or the Tesla Model Y premium audio system. Now, thankfully, however, the Q8 e-tron actually does excel in the mid-bass tones, both in terms of quantity and quality. In fact, I actually did reduce one notch via the bass EQ via the infotainment system in order for me to get a bit more of a reference sound. Here, it'll sound very lively both at the front and rear of the cabin, thanks to the inclusion of the drivers. However, all the competencies that I've said so far actually do go out the window because the rest of the sound frequency range is pretty poor. Specifically here, the mid-range. It's really recessed and pushed back, so much so that vocals really do not come out to the foreground, meaning that you're not really getting that sort of involvement, be it from male or female vocals. Now here you could EQ it to a certain degree via the treble EQ via the infotainment system, but by doing so you'll also be altering the highs. So therefore it's quite disappointing yet again that Audi have not integrated mid and high EQs. Here it is worth pointing out that if you're going to be adjusting it, one notch added to the treble will give a little bit of extra boost to the mid-range while not making the highs too sibilant or harsh. With that said, the highs do not extend really that well. They sound a little bit rolled off. And yes, you do have dedicated tweeters at the front of the cabin, and towards the rear you've got those extra drivers as well, but still here the overall involvement and that sort of toe tapping feeling that you might expect with a system that has 9 audio drivers within the cabin isn't quite there. Now, as for the overall soundstage, the overall width and depth feels a little bit closed and is somewhat unidirectional. That's due to the positioning of the drivers found at the front of the cabin. Still, you've got a decent involvement from the rear thanks to the inclusion of 4 audio drivers. Still, over here, the overall instrument separation feels a bit lackluster, and yet again can't compete with more premium audio systems out there on the market. Now, ultimately, what I'm trying to say over here is that the overall sound within the stock 10-speaker audio system that's found within the Q8 e-tron is pretty disappointing. Considering the vehicle starts from £67,000, in terms of audio terms, it feels like it's competing with vehicles that come in at £30,000 to £40,000, if that. As a result of it, if you're going to be looking at the Q8 e-tron and you're into your music, certainly do go for the £3,000 tech option, or indeed if you're going for the more expensive trim levels, because you'll get the Bang & Olufsen system. This will further bolster the overall audio experience. But that's not to say the Bang & Olufsen system is actually class leading, far from it. That also is completely trumped by the likes of its competitors, for example from BMW, Tesla or Jaguar, some of which I've actually reviewed and will be down in the description below for your own consideration. Now, I'd be curious to know what you make of the stock audio system or indeed the upgraded Bang & Olufsen system within the Q8 e-tron down in the comment section below. And of course, if you've liked this independent detail review, definitely do consider dropping a like, subscribing and hitting that bell notification, all of which would be greatly appreciated. As such, I've been Chris from TotallyEV, and I'll hopefully see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.